Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. 93. Welcome everyone. I apologize for the late post on the second half of the first episode of my vlog. It's been a busy month, and let's face it, it takes a good few hours to put one of these videos together, so my apologies, but here it is. Let's get back to the topic, shall we? The astrological ages. So, we've discussed the age of Pisces and its influence on our minds and souls. Now let us discuss the age of Aquarius. The problem we face is that there's so many various opinions on what date the Aquarian age is supposed to start. Some experts say it started in the 18th century. Others say it won't be here until the 27th century. There's much debate, but most agree that the influence of an astrological age can be felt long before it arrives, and the last age can be felt long after it's gone, due to basically a sphere of influence that each sign has. They sort of overlap, much as our sun signs do in the normal course of the year. As they say, people born on the cusp share qualities of both signs. Therefore, in my opinion, there's no real defining line as far as observing the constellations can tell you. I personally believe the new Aeon was kicked off in 1904 with the dictation of Liber Alva Legis. But let's not get off on a tangent quite yet. There is a time when these ages are changing, that both are in effect. Though the age of Aquarius may not be fully realized, let's say, until the 27th century, it's definitely here and can be felt already. Just look at the way society is evolving. Aquarius traditionally rules over freedom, humanitarianism and idealism, democracy and technology, as well as rebellion. Let's examine these aspects in relation to human developments. In the last couple centuries, we've seen the formations of nations like the United States and Canada, which were founded not only on the premise of democracy, but also value freedom and liberty above all else. Or at least we're supposed to. The ideal is there. Which leads me to idealism. In the 20th century especially, we've seen an extreme growth in utopian philosophy. Musicians, artists, writers, all with ideas of creating a better world and doing away with the negative slavery of past generations. The beatniks, the hippies, the anarchists, and every other counterculture that's risen up in the past century, the rise of anti-industrialism and environmentalism, not to mention the popularity of the green movement. There's definitely a considerable amount of people that understand that our way of doing things needs considerable improvement, and they're not afraid to speak out through their given mediums to help make that change happen. We can look at humanitarian efforts as well in the past 100 years. There are many organizations and charities in this part of the world that are in place to help everything from starving children in the Congo to preventing a river from drying up. You can't put on your TV without seeing a commercial with starving children with flies on their faces and rags for clothes, which is a good thing, for sure. There was definitely nothing of that sort 2,000 years ago. But the average person today still doesn't even think about these problems that we have in the world. They're too busy thinking about who's going to win American Idol. Hopefully, as the age of Aquarius grows stronger, there will be more of an effort made to find legitimate solutions to these problems. Or at least, people will hopefully develop some social conscience. I see a lack of it in today's culture, but I suppose there's been much more of a lack of it in past centuries, and the humanitarian attitude is definitely gaining momentum. Let's not forget also that Aquarius rules over rebellions. Let's look at recent world events. There was an overthrowing of the Egyptian government recently, which was brought about by violent riots in the streets. The country of Libya as well experienced a massive uprising. These are countries where the people are starving and suffer daily injustices by our standards in this part of the world. And they're not going to stand for it anymore. I don't think it's a coincidence that it started in Egypt either, and now we've seen a wide range of riots and protests all over the world, for many different reasons. Excuse me. Even all the crap that's going on in Greece and Europe, not to mention the rather impotent, but I think well-meaning, Occupy movement. People know something's wrong. The old way of life is no longer valid. We need to find a new way of doing things. A better way. But anyway, the Aquarian energy is starting to be felt. These people are fighting for the very things that North American countries were founded to create in the first place. The things we take for granted. A society where each man is free to live his life without persecution, where his success is guided by the amount of work that he contributes to the whole, and where everyone is respected and valued regardless of differences, in a democratic society where everyone has a say in the way things are run. Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Problem is, none of it is actually the way it works out in real life. We're not truly free in North America. We like to think we are, but we're not. Not by a long shot. The reason it hit North America a few hundred years ago was because the people who settled here did so because they were fleeing religious persecution. People in the Middle East are fighting for the same thing, and I'm glad they're waking up. But they're completely enslaved by their religious government. Women can't vote and have very little rights. If you're not a Muslim, you're persecuted at the least, if not tortured and killed. I mean, some of the things I've heard that they've done in Egypt to Christian groups in the past few decades is just appalling. These are things that the settlers of this land were fleeing from in Europe a few hundred years ago. The people in the Middle East, however, don't have the option of just starting a new country somewhere else on the globe. So they have no choice but to rebel against the very thing that's holding them down in their own country. I just hope they don't replace it with some bullshit American facsimile. They have the opportunity to start fresh. Yes, I know, starving people want to be lazy fat Americans, but it's not true freedom. Start something new. Find a new way. But hey, nobody listens to me. That being said, in the United States and Canada, we say we value liberty and freedom. But the truth is, the very people who run these nations have now just got us as enslaved as these Islamic dictatorships. The difference is, we just let them do it to us. There's a need in this part of the world for rebellion as well. We're not free. Not yet, anyway. Because we've had relative freedom, at least compared to the other side of the world. We have the ability now to perfect that freedom. This is where the law of Thelema comes in. I believe it's the ultimate law of liberty, and it completely characterizes the magical formula to be followed for the next 2,000 years. But I'm not here to proselytize or convert. In fact, we Thelemites are discouraged from doing so. But we can't talk about the aeons and not get back to Crowley's view of the topic. The current aeon that we've now recently entered is the Age of Horus. Horus was a solar deity of Ptolemaic Egypt. He's the hawk-headed lord of the sun. He represents strength and glory, as well as rebellion and war. In ancient times, he also took the role of the child Harpocrates, which may be an influence on the importance of the baby Jesus in the solar festival of Christmas. But anyway, as I've discussed, Crowley separated human history into what he called aeons. The one we're coming out of being the Age of Osiris, and the one we're entering being the Age of Horus. Now, many people differentiate on how long these eons last, but I personally feel that what Crowley was trying to get at was a parallel concept with the astrological ages, as evident by the precession of the Equinoxes, as is the topic of this vlog. He felt that Crowleyanity was the religious formula the human race would follow for the next 2,000 years. Whether they've heard of Crowley or not, this is just how people will start to behave, because of the collective unconscious, or whatever you want to call it. We're all connected, and we're all affected by the forces at work in the cosmos, external to us as well as internal to us, obviously. So let's look at the parallels between Aquarius and Horus and investigate a bit. As I said earlier, Aquarius represents freedom, liberty, and rebellion. The age of Horus is representative of the same things. Thelema is the ultimate law of liberty and freedom. It is absolutely a rebellion against the patriarchal dying god religions, but only in an attempt to further the evolution of the human race. The old way isn't working anymore, and we need to embrace a new creed. I don't want to get into a big history lesson about the Book of the Law and the events of Crowley's life too much. There's plenty of other sources you can get that information from. However, as great a magician and occultist as Uncle Al was, the dictation of the Book of the Law was one of the only magical events in his life that he claims he was simply an instrument in. Which is a lot of meaning, since I would assume in early magical life Crowley was usually commanding entities, not having them command him. But regardless, the message that was received is the law of the New Age. This law is, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, which is usually paired with the phrase, love is the law, love under will. Many will also commonly use the phrase, every man and every woman is a star. This demonstrates the shift that humans are taking in consciousness right now. We know now that the sun does not die every night in order to be reborn again in the morning. And since the sun has been the central symbol of divinity in pretty much every culture and religion on the planet, we have to recognize that the sun is in fact a great flaming star, a seemingly eternal source of force and energy, and just one among many, just as each and every one of us is. Hence, every man and every woman is a star. If you'd like further elaboration on this, I suggest reading Crowley's Liber 2, The Message of the Master Therion, which further explains this concept very succinctly. If you'd like, I did a reading myself of it, which you can find on my YouTube channel. But as far as our present topic, it means that the Age of Horus is going to be an age of individual freedoms, a chaotic tapestry of new ideas and new ways of doing things. The human race will begin to be as the child Harpocrates, and approach the universe and reality with childlike curiosity. We'll stop holding ourselves back and build a society of enlightened, free-thinking individuals. We will attain the cosmic consciousness that is prophesied by the coming of the Age of Aquarius. As I've said, it just may not be fully realized until the Age of Osiris is left in ancient history. As far as the world right now is concerned, I'd absolutely characterize our present society as a chaotic tapestry of new ideas and constant rebellion. I've already made my examples clear. I'd just like to finish then with a reading from the introduction to the Book of the Law, where Crowley speaks quite succinctly about the current world and its representation of the new Aeon of Horus. Now, Horus, the child, in which we come to perceive events as a continual growth, partaking in its elements of both these methods, and not to be overcome by circumstance. This present period involves the recognition of the individual as the unit of society. We realize ourselves, as explained in the first paragraphs of this essay, every event, including death, is only one more accretion to our experience. freely willed by ourselves from the beginning and therefore also predestined. This god, Horus, has a technical title, Heru Raha, a combination of the twin gods Rahur Kuit and Hur Par Krat. The meaning of this doctrine must be studied in Magick. He is symbolized as a hawk-headed god enthroned. He rules the present period of 2,000 years, beginning in 1904. Everywhere, his government is taking root. Observe for yourselves the decay of the sense of sin, the growth of innocence and irresponsibility, the strange modifications of the reproductive instinct, with a tendency to become bisexual or epicene, the childlike confidence in progress combined with nightmare fear of catastrophe, against which we are yet half unwilling to take precautions. Consider the outcrop of dictatorships, only possible when moral growth is in its earliest stages, and the prevalence of infantile cults like communism, fascism, pacifism, health crazes, occultism in nearly all its forms, religions sentimentalized to the point of practical extinction. Consider the popularity of the cinema, the wireless, the football pools and guessing competitions, all devices for soothing fractious infants. No seed of purpose in them. Consider sport, the babyish enthusiasm and rages which it excites, whole nations disturbed by disputes between boys. Consider war, the atrocities which only occur daily and leave us unmoved and hardly worried. We are children. How this new Aeon of Horus will develop, how the child will grow up, these are for us to determine, growing up ourselves in the way of the law of Thelema, under the enlightened guidance of the Master Therion. Thank you for listening to my rantings. I hope it was educational. Blessed be in 93. Love is the law. Love under will.